Okay, what's going on? Smeargle here, bringing you the recap for Week 6 of the D League of PWC. This week we got some good games from what I remember, so just get right into the first one. We got UKIT, coach of the Chicago Toros, going up against ABP, coach of the Geo's 12 Flygons. ABP bringing his Coco, Mega Gallade, Drapion, Diggersby, Umbreon, and Archeops. UKIT bringing his Victini, Heracross, that's not Normaldo, that's a Nidoking, Ferrothorn, Cofagrigus, and Zapdos. Let's just get right into it. Archeops leads off against Nidoking as ABP just hard switches in his Umbreon, and UKIT brings in his Ferrothorn. Archeops is then brought back in as UKIT sets up his rocks. ABP then goes for a Heat Wave on the Archeops, or with his Archeops on the Ferrothorn, and reveals the Life Orb. UKIT then protects on ABP's Defog, the Akaberry, enabling him to live with his, Ferrothorn. ABP gets knocked into defeatist range by the Leech Seed, but he does reveal the Roost as UKIT sets up a layer of T-Spikes. ABP then does finally get to defog the hazards away as the Archeops gets burned by UKIT's Cofagrigus. ABP then switches in his Coco as UKIT sets up another layer of Toxic Spikes, and ABP just goes for a Guardian of Alola to severely weaken the Cofagrigus, while UKIT elects to burn the Tapu Koko. The Ferrothorn is brought in as ABP goes for Nature's Madness and into an HP Fire, knocking out UKIT's Ferrothorn. UKIT then brings in his Victini as ABP switches into his Archeops as U-turn crits. The Cofagrigus is then brought back in as ABP chooses to defog away the T-Spikes as UKIT knocks out the Archeops with a Hex. ABP then brings in his Mega Gallade and knocks the Cofagrigus out with a knockoff. UKIT is then going to bring in his Victini yet again as ABP switches in his Coco on a V-Create, knocking it out. ABP then brings in his Drapion. UKIT risks the pursuit and hard switches in his Zapdos as ABP goes for the knockoff, getting rid of the leftovers. ABP then brings in his Mega Gallade as UKIT Volt switches for a crit, bringing in his Victini yet again as ABP elects to bring in his Umbreon as UKIT U-turns out into his Heracross. ABP brings in his Drapion yet again as the Mega Horn misses from UKIT. ABP then Poison Jabs and poisons the Heracross as his Drapion dies. ABP then goes for a Zen Headbutt as UKIT brings in his Zapdos. ABP then just bulks up as UKIT goes for Air Cutter, and ABP knocks out the Zapdos with the second Zen Headbutt. Victini's brought back in as ABP then brings in his Umbreon yet again, saving his Gallade. The Heracross is brought back in as ABP at this point has no responses to a banded Heracross, sacking off his Umbreon to bring in his Mega Gallade to knock out the Heracross. UKIT then brings in his Victini, which is going to, as ABP then switches in his Diggersby. UKIT brings in his Nidoking and goes for his Z-Focus Blast, which is going to knock out the Diggersby easily. ABP then brings in his Mega Gallade, goes for a knockoff on the Nidoking, which knocks out his Gallade with a Sludge Wave in turn. So ABP takes that game. ABP loses that game to UKIT by a score of 0-2. It's fairly straightforward. Scarf Victini plus Banded Heracross pressured basically his entire team, and the solid defensive core of Ferrothorn, Cofagrigus, Zapdos, but mainly Zapdos because Zapdos stayed alive the longest and caused the most problems, was too much for ABP to try and break through, and Nidoking was just a nice little extra thing there in that pile. So The next game we have is Saul, coach of the Borussia Pichus, going up against Nathaniel, coach of the Dallas Stravias. Nathaniel being the only winless coach in D-League at this point, which is pretty unfortunate, but, you know, just the way the cookie crumbles. He elects to bring his Silvally, Jellicent, Curum Black, Magmortar, Persian Alola, and Virizion, as Saul brings his Mega Diancie, Thundy Incarnate, Garchomp, what is that thing called? Volcarona, Celebi, and Cobalion. Getting right into it. The Cobalion leads against the Curum Black as Nate brings in his Jellicent on the rocks. Celebi is switched in on the Jellicent as Nate clicks Will-O-Wisp, predicting a switch of some sort, or he just wanted to burn the Cobalion. Saul Thunderwaves the incoming Persian as he then switches in his Cobalion as Nate elects to Parting Shot out into his Virizion. Saul then switches in his Celebi again as Nate sets up a sub. Nate is then going to go for an SD as Saul is going to break the sub with a Psychic. Crit obviously mattered. Jellicent is then brought in as Saul goes for a Psychic. Nate then goes into his Persian as Saul Giga Drains. He Giga Drains again as Nate Parting Shots out into his Magmortar. Saul switches in his Garchomp on the Fire Blast as Nate then sacks off his Persian, and then brings in his Curum, which is he is going to click Ice Beam as the Cobalion comes in, taking 29, and then he switches in his Jellicent as Saul likes to Iron Head the incoming Jellicent. Nate is going to get his Jellicent taunted as he tries to click Recover. Saul then switches in his Celebi as Nate just goes for a Scald, and does not get a burn. He then brings in his Magmortar on the Giga Drain. On the Thunder Wave. Wow, okay. And then Saul is going to switch in his Volcarona as Nate is unfortunately going to miss a Fire Blast. I can only assume it was Specs because it did a bunch of damage to the thing. The Fire Blast with the 2 KO'd, which is unfortunate. The Fire Blast Nate's just going to Fire Blast, as Saul is just roosting till Nate gets fully paralyzed, which is unfortunate, but yeah, so he gets to +2, Nate is then going to Fire Blast him down, but at this point it is too late, as Saul is just going to keep roosting, and the Jellicent is then brought in on a Fire Blast, on a roost, and on a Fire Blast, yeah. The Jellicent's knocked out with a Giga Drain, the Curum comes in and is unfortunately going to die to a fire. Nope, the Fire Blast is going to miss. Nate's going to go for Draco and do 32, and then he's going to die and he's going to sack his Magmortar as Saul roosts and quivers again as Nate Fire Blasts. Does not get a crit at any point, which, you know, he doesn't really have a response to the Volcarona now, so he sacks off his Electric Silvally, and then brings in his Virizion, hoping for another Fire Blast miss, which is going to happen, and he is going to then go for a Z Leaf Blade, which is going to do 20, and yeah, he's just going to kill the last 3 Mons, so fairly straightforward game. It was really weird, and yeah, Saul's going to win 6-0, so there you go. The next game is Ryan, coach of whatever the fuck his team name is, going up against Thunder, coach of the Minnesota Hyperfangs. Yeah, I don't know why I spaced out on the name for a second, but Thunder's going to bring his Moltres, Mew, Mega Heracross, Whiscash, Zygarde, and Galvantula, as Ryan brings those 6. His Diancie, Heatran, Mega Lopunny, Explode, Sarina, and Slowbro. So, Moltres versus Lopunny is the lead matchup, as the Slowking is brought in on a Hurricane, which does a nice chunk and confuses. The Tran is then brought in on Moltres, as Thunder elects to U-turn out into his Mew. The Heatran, he misses a move. He misses Fire Blast with his Heatran, as he reveals to be pretty speedy, and Earth Power hits through the Shaka, and yeah. He then goes for a Thunderbolt on the incoming Slowking, which is going to do 30, revealing this, I think, to be Assault Vest. I'm not sure. Nope, never mind. Now Lopunny's brought in on Galvantula as Thunderbug buzzes and then thunders, potentially, like, soon. Fake Out hits, and then he switches in his Moltres on a return. On a last resort, okay. Revealing Rocky Helmet. He goes for a last resort. Holy shit, I can't talk. Then the Zygarde is brought in as the Serena is then switched in as Nate goes for knee speed, which gets blocked by Serena's ability. The Mew is then brought in yet again, and the Serena Trop kicks. Nate goes for Psychic on the incoming Slowking. This cat needs to fuck off. Sorry for that. The Galvantula is brought in on the Serena switch. Then the Diancie is brought in on the Galvantula as Nate goes for a Thunder, or as Thunder goes for a Thunder, predicting a switch. He then Volt switches out into his Mew as Ryan rock polishes for some reason and Moonblasts the Mew for 27%, getting this attack drop, which is just not enough to save Diancie from a Psychic. So the Heatran's then brought back in, and the Mew takes the roll on the Fire Blast as Thunder just knocks that thing out with an Earth Power. So it's pretty obvious at this point that this Mew's Assault Vest. The Zygarde comes in on the dead Mew, and he Dragon Dances and goes for 1,000 arrows as the Serena comes in. Sorry, he goes for an E-Speed as the Serena comes in, whatever. And then he goes for a Z Outrage, which is going to wipe the floor with the Serena. And out comes the Slowking. Thunder, god fucking damn it, goes for an Outrage as Ryan sets up a Trick Room and nearly knocks out the Zygarde, but dies to another Outrage. He then brings in his Exploud, which is going to knock out the thing with a Boom Burst. Whiscash comes in and EQs the Exploud for over half, but it's not going to be able to tank a Boom Burst, so it dies. Then Heracross comes in, and then he sacks off his Galvantula as Ryan just Boom Bursts, and then Heracross comes in again, and then Thunder knocks him out with a Pin Missile, knocks out Ryan's Exploud with a Pin Missile. The Lopunny then comes in. Fake Out into Last Resort is going to be enough to knock out the Mega Heracross, giving Ryan a 1-0 win over Thunder. Very close. I don't know if the Last Resort was a roll, but maybe it wasn't. I don't fucking know. I'm not going to calc it. So, yeah, very close game. I think the closest one of the week. I'm not sure. Next game is Smeargle, which is me, coach of the Hidden Valley Worlds, going up against Lagoon, coach of the Flint Muddy Water. Lagoon ringing Crobat, Mamoswine, Celesteela, Zoroark, the Rotom Wash, and Volbeat as I bring my Mega Gardevoir, Xurkitree, Hawlucha, Seismitoad, Excadrill, and Gigalith. So let's just get right into the game. Mamo leads off against Seismitoad. Lagoon freeze dries me as I just knock out his Mamoswine turn 1 with a Hydro Pump. Lagoon then brings in his Celesteela as I go for a Rain Dance. Lagoon knocks me out with Leech Seed damage, so that's a very good turn. The Xurkitree comes in, and I Volt Switch out on his Celesteela, bringing in my Hawlucha as Lagoon goes for an EQ. Lagoon then, I'm going to set up a High Jump Kick. I'm going to set up High Jump Kick as Lagoon Leech Seeds me. And then I'm going to Swords Dance as Lagoon protects. So Lagoon is then going to try and go for a double protect as I go for a Drain Punch and I knock out his Celesteela, get back all my health, and then Lagoon brings in the Volbeat and paralyzes the Hawlucha, unfortunately, as I just go for an Acrobatics, knocking the Volbeat down to its sash. Lagoon is then going to bring in Rotom Wash as I go for a Drain Punch. Lagoon then predicts and goes for a Will-O-Wisp as I stay in and High Jump Kick, knocking out the Rotom Wash. And Lagoon then brings in his Crobat as I switch in my Gigalith. Lagoon goes for a Nasty Plot. And I then go ahead and... he goes ahead and Giga Drains as I just go for an Explosion, killing off the Crobat. And the double down Volbeat comes in against the Excadrill, and Lagoon sets up a Tailwind as I knock out the Volbeat with an Earthquake. Zoroark then comes in and clean just fucks Excadrill up the ass with a Focus Blast, and then Gardevoir is going to come in. Lagoon is going to go for Shadow Ball, which Gardevoir chews, and Gardevoir is then going to... I'm going to knock out his Zoroark with my Gardevoir, so that's going to be the game. I win 3-0. Very good game, etc., etc. Very fast. 14 turns is really nice. And, yeah, that's going to be it for that one. 2 more games left. TPB, coach of the... I don't care. Going up against its coach of the Sacramento Nido-Kings. It's bringing Lando T, not Lando I, Chesnaught, Bronzong, Infernape, Sylveon, and Gren, as TBP brings Mega Sceptile, Jirachi, Rotom-Heat, Porygon 2, Thundurus, Therian, and Nihilego. The Infernape leads off against the Rotom, as it's just U-turns out into his Sylveon, as TPP Volt switches out into his Nihilego. The Bronzong's brought in on the Nihilego as TPP sets up a layer of T-Spikes. Then brings in his Jirachi as it sets up some rocks. Then TPP sets up some rocks. Then it's Earthquakes the Jirachi for some nice damage as TPP goes for a Wish. The Earthquake does about the same amount of damage. And then TPP Moonblast the Bronzong for some reason, and it's Toxics the Jirachi for some reason, so that was a very, very good turn. The Rotom Heat is then brought in as it goes for an Earthquake, and then Volt switches, TPP Volt switches into his Jirachi, as it goes for a Toxic and misses, which didn't matter because Jirachi's a Steel type. TPP throws up a Wish as it gets a crit EQ. Oh my fucking god, this is gonna take forever. Moonblast the thing for 4% every turn, Wish, and then he finally fucking switches. He crits the Jirachi again, I think. Yes. Knocking him down to 38. And then he switches in his Infernape, which, you know, it's about fucking time. As TPP Moonblasts again. No, he sets up rocks again. Why is this something that's going on right now on my screen? He then U-turns into the Landorus. I thought he would U-turn into the Bronzong. TPP then U-turns himself, critting the Landorus, bringing in the Rotom. Then knock off from the Scarf Landorus, kills the Scarf Rotom. Sceptile comes in, and Itz is going to switch in his Chesnaught, because that's a good Sceptile response, as TPP Leaf Blades the incoming Chesnaught for 4. The Poison is going to cancel out the lefties. The Rachi then switches in as, Itz is going to Drain Punch it, and then I think he's going to switch. He's probably going to switch. He doesn't switch. He leads the Jirachi, and then the thing happens where he stays in with his Chesnaught and Drain Punches the Jirachi further for more damage. The Wish is going to come true, and then Itz is going to gain like 6% of his health, and then he's going to keep staying in for some reason, and then crit the Rachi yet again with his Chesnaught, gaining back a bunch of health now. And then he's going to stay in with his Chesnaught again, and then Drain Punch again, and then he's going to almost knock out the Jirachi, and then he's going to get the Wish back. Oh, this is fun. Then he's going to take more damage, and then the Chesnaught's going to almost die, very nearly. He's then going to Drain Punch, trying to keep the Jirachi low, which I've now realized is what he's trying to do. Then he's going to sack his Chesnaught here, as TPB Moonblasts it, so... Greninja's then brought in as TPP is going to sack off his Jirachi. Finally, fuck. Then he's going to bring in his, I'm assuming Porygon 2. Nope, he brings in his Mega Sceptile. Then Infernape switches in as TPP Leaf Blades again, which is going to nearly kill it because of a crit, which is, you know, justified at this point. Then he switches in his Thundurus as Itz is going to close combat and then die to poison. Bringing in his Scarf Landorus on the Thundurus, he then the TPP switches in his Porygon 2 to trace the Intimidate, but at the cost of his Eviolite, so yeah. So some pleasantries are exchanged as he does 1%. What the fuck? Where am I? Okay, he leaf blades the what? Okay, he ice beams and does 1% of damage. Toxics the P2. Sceptile's brought in. He sets up a Swords Dance as it's rock slides and crits. Leaf blade's gonna do 40 as he dies to another rock slide. Out comes Thunderous. I think he just gets walled out by the Thunderous for the rest of the game. I mean the Bronzong. Yeah, the Bronzong just walls out his entire team. That was a very uninteresting game. Moving on, we've got the last game of the week. OP Jellicent, coach of the whatever the hell, Annister City Agrons, going up against Tim, coach of the Dwebbles, New Jersey Dwebbles. Slurpuff, Doug Trio, Embor, Tapu Fini, Mega Scizor, and Crustle, brought by Tim, going up against OP Jellicent's Mega Aggron, Leavanny, Staraptor, Tentacruel, Entei, and Latios. So let's go. Crustle leads off against Leavanny. Webs and knockoffs are exchanged. OP's going to Energy Ball the Crustle for like a third, and then Tim switches in his Mega Scizor. He is then going to U-turn as OP brings in his nope, he's gonna switch in his Slurpuff as OP brings in his Mega Aggron, and then he's going to switch into his Crustle as rocks go up, and then he Earthquakes the Aggron for 17% as the Doug Trio gets roared in, and he Earthquakes the Aggron for 31% and then dies to a Heavy Slam. He then brings in his Embor, and I don't see an Embor switch in at all, so he's going to kill the Mega Aggron now. OP then brings in the Tentacruel, which is going to scare out the Embor, as he brings in his Slurpuff for some reason. Granted, he doesn't have a switch in for this, so whatever. The Tentacruel is then just going to... What the fuck? Tim protects with his Slurpuff, with his leftover Slurpuff, that's right. And then Surf gets a really weird-ass fucking roll. Or wait, no, he reveals Sludge Wave, never mind. I don't know why I thought that was Surf, but I did. He Megas with his Scizor, Bullet Punches the Tentacruel, and gets killed by an HP Fire. And then he brings in Tapu Fini, which is going to get slowed down. And then take Sludge Wave damage, and then knock out the Tentacruel with a Moonblast Defog. He's going to knock out the Tentacruel with a Defog. He's going to sack off his Finny now, and, yeah, he defogged a little bit too late. Bringing in his Embor now, he's going to Sucker Punch, and... Nope, he's going to Scarf Flare Blitz and knock this out, and then he's going to bring in, the Staraptor's going to come in, Scarf Brave Bird's going to knock out the Embor, and then Tim is going to bring in his Crustle, which is his last Mon, which is going to tank a Brave Bird. He's then going to knock off the Staraptor's Scarf and then die to a Brave Bird. So that was that game, 18 turns, not the shortest of the week. Mine was, so I'm God. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next week. Bye. Week 7 is next week, by the way, in case you can't count.